other side that I want to touch base on even right now is I want to spend a little bit of time on the negative side, because I think that the point I was making earlier when we were talking was this idea that we all have blind sides, right? And so mercy, which is one of yours, right, is a great strength. It's phenomenal because you see people differently than I do, because mercy isn't one of my strengths, right? So you see sometimes the people that are down and out that I would never see. But that can also be something that can be a downside for you. So maybe just share a little bit about an example of what that could look like.
So like Danielle and I have pretty much the same 3 motivational giftings, but I was just listening to her just now, and the difference between how I saw mercy when I was first told, oh, you have the gift of mercy. I was kind of like Leah and thought like, that's not a gift, that's a diagnosis. Because I didn't grow up with the counterbalance. I didn't grow up with the idea of, oh, this is a gift, this is something positive. I viewed it as, oh, I'm a pushover. I get taken advantage of. I don't know how to say the word no to other people. And so I would constantly put my needs aside, and other people would, and I would follow my gifting and put other people first, but at the same time, what I was needing wasn't being fulfilled. And so I felt it was more of an anchor than it was something that was uplifting. And it took a long time for me to figure out the opposite side of that, oh, wait a second, it's not a diagnosis, it's a gift that I can look at someone and say, oh, this happened in your life, that doesn't define you. Let's correct this. Let's redirect this.
Good.
And I had to do the same thing to myself in the mirror, like, this doesn't define you. Let's redirect this real quick.
Yeah.
And one of the cool things is having these gifts there, and this may sound a little selfish, but talking to the negative side of it, the gifts are great, but we can also use the gift on yourself. And like, I can encourage myself and have mercy and be like, you know what? You made the mistake. You messed up. Let's fix it, and let's rework this real quick. And so it took a long time, like I said, to balance that negative aspect of being merciful, to balance it out. But after I figured it out, the eye-opening experience was pretty incredible. Like I can look at somebody now and know what they need, and if I say yes, and I put my needs behind myself, it's okay, because I recognize that, and I can go back and make sure that what I need is being fulfilled, but also using my gift to glorify other people too.
Yeah,
that's awesome.
That's awesome.
That's good. So Pastor Alex, you, one of your strengths and one of your giftings is helps. That's not ours. I mean, I think in some ways we all might like to help people, but it's actually a motivational gift of yours, right? And so one of the things that's a strength on that is that you recognize and you see things that need to be done that maybe others don't, right? One of the negatives that can happen, and I'm not saying this about you, but maybe you could tell us more about this, when other people don't see those negatives, it probably drives you nuts. Am I right?
Yeah.
In other words, when other people don't see the things that need to be done and you are the helper, so you're just going to go do them, maybe touch base on that for a minute.
Yeah, well, I think with everything, there's a lot of different balances. And so with my own personality, and we were even just talking about it a little bit earlier, I think I look at certain things and go, okay, so this is the work that has to get done. And if someone doesn't do it, I get frustrated, but I do it anyway. Like, I'm mad at the person for not doing their job, but then I'll just do it. And the justice side of me wants to go out and be like, hey, just tell me you didn't do it. Like, I want people to tell me that I did their job for them. Like, I want them to own, like, the prophecy side of me that comes inside and goes like, hey, I just want you to know this wasn't done, but I took care of it. And I want them to look back at me and almost be like, yeah, I failed to do that, which rarely happens. People are just usually confused. Because I don't think the problem is that I look at it like, oh, you failed to do your job, and I had to help you in it. But the reality is that sometimes people just forget. And when I step up and help in something, it's not because someone maliciously forgot something. And something that really I've had to learn, even since moving here, is to just believe in people's best. I had a conversation with someone that I really trust and admire, and they were talking to me, and they said, don't you trust that I would do the best I could in any given situation? Don't you know me well enough to know that in any situation, I am never going to maliciously do evil. I'm never going to maliciously overlook something. I'm not going to intentionally disregard something. I'm not going to overstep on something. I'm not going to do wrong purposefully. And I think that when I've tried my best to look at the angle of what I do through that, to like, oh, someone failed to do something, I'm going to help with that. While I'm helping with it, I'm not going to sit down and go, you know what? They probably did this on purpose because they're lazy or because they're forgetful or because, they're awful. Like, that's an easy place to go because we want to place blame. And I think the negative side of the helper is that while you're helping, you can obviously sit down and be like, why did they fail to do the thing that they were supposed to do? So that's the negative part of my gift. Like, sure, I'll go, if something's not done, I'm going to do it. Like, that's the gift. The negative side is while I'm doing it, I'm going to be like, why the heck didn't they do their job? Like, why didn't they do the thing that they were tasked to do? And then the way that I've kind of tried to, the antidote for that is just remembering, like, nobody on my team, nobody in my life that I've allowed to be close to me is going to do something maliciously evil, right? They're not going to do something intentionally harmful. They're not doing this so they can just watch me help them. They're not doing this because they're lazy. They're not doing this because they're, they want me to do the job and they just didn't want to do it themselves. Like, that's where our mind can go if you're a helpful person and you are in a rough spot, right? But ultimately, just keeping that mindset, like, you know what, I have good people around me. And if I'm in a spot where I'm helping them do something, it's not because they are forcing me to do it or they're lazy or they're ignorant or they're whatever. Like, it's just, I have to put that lens of, like we've been talking in the main service for the past 3 months, just like looking through the eyes of Christ, like, this person just forgot. Yeah. And I'm here in a spot where I can help them, so I'm going to do it.
That's good. Yeah, and you're talking about me there, so thanks very much. I appreciate it. I'm an administrative person, and so my mind works administratively. And what I've recognized is I love lists. Like, I want to make lists of lists for my list.
I need to make a list on Friday.
Exactly. So I have my day scheduled out, and I know what it's planned, and I'm the guy who can walk past the trash on the ground because I'm headed somewhere and I'm going to go do something and it's in my plan. And so there's those things sometimes that I don't think I've ever done this for you, but there can be this idea from an administrative person that looks at a helps person. It's like, you're just over there doing all these things and you're just accomplishing a bunch of stuff, but did you create a list? Do you know what I mean? That sounds so goofy, but did you create a list? Did you plan this out? And I'm the kind of guy, one of my negatives is if things don't go as planned, I have a hard time. Like, I get frustrated because my plan was in place and you decided to go clean the trash when this was really the priority. Do you know what I'm saying? And so for me, I think that there's something that we've worked with each other long enough that we recognize our strengths in each other. And there can also be some rubs sometimes just because we spend so much time with each other. But I think, especially in quarantine, we have spent a lot of quarantine time in this room right here, quarantine. But I think one of the things that we do well as a staff is recognizing, like Pastor Alex said, the gifts in each other and the positives in each other and the recognition that Leah is prophetic. Like, that's a good thing. It's an honestly good thing that you're prophetic, because in this team, you're the one who sometimes will say something and it comes out like, no, this is what we need to do. Like, can't you see it? Do you know what I mean? And I don't mean that rude. I really don't mean that good.
I know.
So, and that's a good thing to have people like that in your life. And then there's the mercy-motivated person who has the ability to say, okay, we might want to approach this from a softer perspective, because there's people out there that, man, they just need Jesus. They just need some loving right now. They just need some encouraging, right? And I'm over here just working. I'm over here just getting my tasks done. Alex is doing all the stuff that nobody thought about doing.
Nobody saw us being
You're exhorting everybody. Like, come on, you're exonerating.
That's mercy, isn't it?
There it is. Yeah, sure. We're giving mercy to you for saying that. Sure. I don't know.
Be
if
sure
that no,
I'm trying.
But you know what I'm saying. In other words, I think that that's a cool thing as a team. So Danielle, maybe just talk on that for a minute.
Yeah, I literally saw something yesterday, and it is just, if you can say something's been like milling in your head, and I'm going to get the direct quote completely off, but I'll try and get the point across. It was saying something of, if you believe people are doing things with their best intention, or the moment you stop believing people are doing things with their best intention, disconnect happens.
Yeah.
And I think within a church body, within a staff body, within a home unit, whatever body you find yourself in. And luckily, we're all part of the Big C church. The moment disconnect happens, and like Alex was saying, if you were to believe that someone's doing something like, I believe Mick's not doing this with his best intentions, or whatever, then the moment of disconnects happens, and God is a God of unity. That's the craving for the body. If we have like a lone limb just flopping over there and the rest of the body's doing this, and we think they're just doing their own thing because they want to flop and do whatever, then I think that's the moment where we can get a disconnection point even in our mind. And I think the moment that we can always, even if people do something different than how you think that it should be done, or Rob, I'm like, why are we making lists? Like we have, you know what I mean? Like we could find the negatives in every single person's thing, even within our own. But I think we have to very intentionally keep, people have their best intentions, or we believe that people are working with their best intentions, even if they aren't. So then we keep unity available. The moment that there's like a sever, there has to, like if we're just thinking in a plank of wood, if someone hits it, there's a divot that someone has to like, now I need to navigate this crevice of whatever. And so it's like this swoop thing that we need to figure out. But the moment that we can keep our playing fields even, then I think God can work within like, okay, now I'm connecting ties that I didn't even see. And even different in a community, like, you know those boards where people like get like they put in a nail and they get a wire, and then you see a thing and you're like, wow, I didn't even see that was happening. I think when we can keep that within a church body, I'm like, I didn't know I needed that, but what they bring is something different. And they brought a nail, and then you see this big, beautiful picture. So once we keep our playing fields even, and we believe the best, and disconnect isn't there, then the unity between the church. And I think that's what can change the world. Not only is God's love, but when people can look at the church or the way people are loving each other or believing the best in each other, they can say like, that's something different than what I've got going on, you know? And I think that's when people can see the actual work and extended hand of God, when we can connect the things in a community, in a state, in a church, in a family. The people in your life, like these are the people we spent more time with probably than a lot of our own families in this past 2 months. And even in your own home, like, do you believe the best in your kids? As a kid, do you believe the best in your parent or your spouse? Like, if they don't do something like, gosh, this is the 5th time I've asked them to do this. If you believe the best, and let's say they just forgot, like then I think our connection point stays there, and it kind of keeps the playing field even.
So I think anybody who has played a team sport, and I'm sorry for those who maybe haven't, but there is a element of trust. And like Danielle is saying, and Alex actually, if you believe the best in someone else, your team is going to function as a team should. So I think we had actually, it was one of the most devastating games ever, but we had a person on our team that went back to serve, and essentially it was in a really, sorry, this is volleyball. It was in a really, really important match, like really important. We were it was tight, and I remember our team just saying to this girl, just get it over the net. And her reaction was really harsh, and she missed her serve. And then our whole team fell apart. I mean, literally, it was like train wreck. Couldn't turn your eyes away, the whole thing. And I just remember, like, my learning experience from that is there was such a bitterness in us toward her and a bitterness in her toward us just because we didn't trust our teammates. And the cool thing is I was a setter. So if you know me, I've told all of your kids to play volleyball and to be the setter. That's just the truth if they're a girl. And there was one thing that my coach taught me, which I have since believed to be wrong, that he taught me, he said, always say it's your bad, always. Doesn't matter if it's the perfect set and your hitter misses it, you always tell them it's your bad because you need to build up their confidence. And I remember just even having that experience of always, you'd always remember, it's my bad, I got it, that was me. And people would start telling me, like, I remember as we started advancing in volleyball, people would be like, why are you saying that? That was a perfect set. Or that didn't always happen. Sometimes it really was my bad. But all of these things, and it was funny because you could see that out of balance that happened when you're taking all of the blame. Or when you're taking, like for Alex, when he's taking all of the extra slack. And all he's experiencing is this, like, first of all, this overload. And then his gifting is being abused. And nobody else is seeing it. Nobody else is seeing it. The hitter is thinking that they're doing the right thing. And I'm bringing this point up because I'm amazed at what a team can do when we believe the best in each other, when we trust that each other has our best interest at heart.
Yeah.
When you trust that Danielle is going to sprawl out on the floor to get that ball that's in her lane. If it's not in her lane, she doesn't need to get it. For me, as a setter, the second ball is always mine. And I will bulldoze someone to get that second ball because it's mine. And what I started learning is if I can't help the ball, it needs to be someone else's. If me going after that second ball is not going to help, is not going to make that ball, they call it better the ball. If it's not going to better the ball, I need to ask for help. And so I've learned in those things in my life, like if we're stretching ourselves outside of our gifting and it's actually hurting, that's when we need to bring balance. We need to ask for help. So for me, prophetically motivated people can be really, really highly self-critical. And so one of our biggest fears, and I'm blanket statementing this, is that we always have a blank in our eye and we're afraid that we're missing something. We're afraid that there's some darkness or some evil or something bad that's happening in our life and we can't see it. It's like almost paranoia. And that self-critical sort of a mentality can like take over your gift and make it really a burden. And so I just want to encourage you, like there are certain things that we just have to add balance to, and that's not a problem. It's just something we have to be aware of. So as often as I throw out the contents of my life and I try to pick out the bad bits, I also have to be very, very aware that it's okay that I didn't eat plant-based on Friday. It's okay. Like I'm gonna be okay, you know? Those things.
Yeah, no, I love it. That's good. Well, I think it even brings us back to the beginning of the don't think of yourself more highly than you ought. There's a pride thing that's there, right? We can all be prideful. One of the absolute foundations of sin begins with pride.
Right. Yeah, absolutely.
And so when it comes to those things, I think even just hey, I'm going to take the bad. I'm going to take it. I'm going to say it's me. That's scriptural in a way. Mm-hmm. Humble yourself, and then you'll be exalted. If you're exalting yourself, you're going to be humbled. And we don't want to be humbled. Totally. We want to humble ourselves. Mm-hmm. And so when it comes to these giftings, I just think it's important that number one, we recognize it's a strength.
Right.
There's a lot of people, sometimes mercy motivated people right off the bat. They're the ones who think that, oh, this isn't a strength. Like I don't have any strength. I'm weak because everybody else is the strong one, right? But it's a strength. So you need to hear you are strong in your gifting.
And we need you.
And we need you.
I have to have that.
Yeah.
And I think if you think of it like it's your strength for whatever gifting you have, the moment you think like this is my position I walk out of rather than this is what I get walked on, whether it be administration, like really good at like checking things off and whatever, the moment you walk out like there, I can further the kingdom of God through this. I can further, and I've thought about this so much. The verse that says, your kingdom come, your will be done on earth as it is in heaven. I put my caveat, and I don't know if this is biblical, you correct me if not, through me. Like, your kingdom come, your will be done on earth as it is in heaven through me. Whatever that be. So that's the position you walk out of, knowing that I'm, hopefully, and if this is not your intentions, correct yourself. Like,
Right.
have a reality check with yourself. Like, this is to further the kingdom of God in whatever you're
Absolutely.
doing.
And every single one of these things can be used for our own prideful good and to grow ourselves, or it can be used to grow the church. And what is absolutely scriptural, wow, about what you said, we're all saying really awesome words today. One of the things that's very scriptural about what you said is God uses the church. Not the building, not the programs, but the individuals. And when we're all doing our part, walking in our giftings, right, the body of Christ is moving and working like it's supposed to. So I encourage you today, hey, figure out what your motivational gifts are. If you don't know them already, take the assessment. It's online for you. Figure out what those things are. Recognize that it's a gifting, and then also recognize that you have a blind spot. And those blind spots can be things that can take you out. The enemy can use those things to remove you from God's will, or you can recognize those things, grow in your strengths, and do what God has called you to do. So I love you guys. You guys are an amazing team to work with. You guys are phenomenal. I feel like we balance each other out in a lot of ways. So you guys are amazing. I encourage you, get plugged into the church, right? Get plugged in with your giftings, with what God has called you to do and how he's called you to do it. And I just believe that it's going to grow and mature the church. So we love you. Look forward to being with you. God bless you. See you soon.